Alright guys, in this video, we're going to show you how to effectively select your niche and your market. And we're going to cover, should you go broad or narrow, how to make a list full of profitable niche in 2025, 2026, whatever year you're in right now, and how to select and commit to a niche. Right. So first of all, I do want to go through some of the personal journey that I took and some of the decisions that I made when I was just starting out to make sure that you guys understand the thought process and maybe you guys can relate to what I've been through. So when I first started my business back in the day, I got this generic advice here, which is pick what you have experience with and pick what you're passionate about, right? It is the right advice. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's very generic. And in this video and in this lesson, I'm going to give you something that you can take action on, right? Such as ChatGPT prompt and a few niche selection criteria that you actually can take action on more than this generic advice that the guru on the internet normally give. Right. So first of all, getting all this, basic, simple genetic advice, I went on to select, of course, jewelry niche because I am a jeweler, as you can see here, and that was my last full-time job. So when I quit my jobs and get into digital marketing, this is the first niche that I go after, right? So the reason behind that is that I was really afraid going to a competitive niche such as real estate and solar and mortgage broker and all that stuff, right? I seen the people on the Facebook group and people on the internet just continue to talk about it, like there's 10 different agency in one group, and it just scared me away. And mind you, this is Vico starting out thought process, right? Vico as a beginner, thinking. So hopefully you guys can relate to that. I went to the niche and I got a couple of client result, right? As you can see here, this client was based in Melbourne and he gave me a very good testimonial. I end up having 3 or 4 jewelry client, over the spans of 6 to 8 months. So on average, one client every 2 months. And I realized it's really hard to get clients. And it takes me a while to come to this conclusion, which is that the manufacturing side of the market is actually dying, right? These small jewelers that make custom jewelry ring are not that popular, right? In this day of age, right? So we're looking at the trending market right now, which is Gen Z and Gen Y, getting a job and making money and buying jewelry. They normally go for Zara and Pandora, right? If you're into jewelry or into fashion, you probably know them, right? Zara and Pandora. People are going to be buying cheap jewelry that make from silver, aluminum, or some other metal that is not gold, so that they can wear it one-off and then just throw it away when it get old, right? So when it comes to making platinum and gold and all that stuff, like, people, it's not a trend anymore, and this market is a dying market. That's why it's so hard to get clients, right? Even though I enjoy working with them and I'm getting great results for them, it's just not a place to stay in. Therefore, which led me to the next pivot point, which is solar. Right, so you can see here I'm writing this proposal into the solar guy, and he bought from me, and he also giving me a testimonial. So with solar, it is really a mixed feeling here. So the reason why I'm got into solar, because I want to explore this pay per lead model, because everyone in solar are doing pay per lead and no one is really doing retainer anymore. And it's really a symptom of this shiny object syndrome. If you're an entrepreneur, you should know what that means. If you see somebody doing something that is new, flashy, and working, you probably want to try it out. So I got maybe 3 to 4 solar clients also at the time. And guys, that was a really competitive space with a non-scalable model, right? What I mean by non-scalable is this pay per lead model. It's just $50 per lead, and it's just not profitable given that you pay the ad spends also. And it's really extremely competitive for both client result and client acquisition. What that means, guys, is that once you get the client and you're launching ad for them, right? And this homeowner that being served solar ad, they being served 5 or 6 different solar ad from different agency, and the solar guy, right, the solar seller that you get on a call with, they got on a call with 5 or 6 different marketing agencies. So it's very competitive, and they also are salesmen, so it's very hard to really sell to them. So getting to solar is very hard in general, and it really leading to me almost quitting my digital marketing business at the time, right? It was very hard. And then I'll pivot to real estate, right? Just to give you some context there, I was doing solar, mortgage, and real estate at the same time. So I was really going broad at that time, just try to find my foot on the marketplace when it comes to digital marketing, lead generations, and getting client result. And next is getting into real estate, right? And I heard this is also competitive, so it might feel like solar, but I want to see what the fuss is all about, right? And by that time, right, I actually have to understand and accept that there is no easy and perfect niche, right? Every niche gonna have its good and its downside. I need to understand that persistent also key, so meaning that I need to stick with it for at least 60 to 90 days to make sure that it doesn't work for me or it does work for me. Real estate is also a very competitive field compared to solar, but it offers various subcategories such as buying, selling, renting, and investing, right? So what that means, guys, like unlike solar, with all of the smaller subcategory, we can always adapt to the changing market, meaning we can switch between buyer and seller and vice versa. For example, in the solar industry, right, there used to be this government scheme back in the day where the government agreed to pay for the homeowner battery for $6,000 or up to $10,000. So it was very easy to get lead. However, when that scheme finished, it was very hard to get client end result for the solar industry. Therefore, it's not really easy to adapt. When it comes to real estate, right, the market is always going to be shifting, but you can always shift with the market by just changing your ad from buyer to seller, right? So for example, during COVID, the real estate market in Australia shift from seller market to buyer market, and all we have to do is just change a couple of ad creative for our client, and it worked like a charm, right? As long as our client make money, they keep paying us and we'll make money with them. That's why it was very easy to actually switch between seller to investing to renting to buyer, right? And lastly, real estate deals are high ticket, meaning real estate agent in general have stronger buying power when it comes to paying for your services. You can ask 2, 3, 4, 5K to real estate agent. Not a big deal because they make 20K, 30K in terms of commission. Now it's very hard to ask the same price point for a gym or restaurant owner where people are coming into a gym paying $27 a month, something along that line, right? Now if you compare that to solar and jewelry is on average 2 to 3K per ring, and solar is 6 to 10K per installation, and real estate is 20 to 30K per deal in terms of commission. So this is speaking in Australia. Obviously in America and UK, commission structure are slightly different. And just some side note here, this is also at the same time that we discover GoHighLevel, right? And if you click on this link, you get a 30-day free trial of what GoHighLevel platform is have to offer. But it's pretty much is a game changer for us, because if you know, real estate have a long sales cycle, meaning that the lead that you get from real estate campaign today usually takes 3 to 12 months to convert, right? To become a buyer or seller, right? So that what we do with GoHighLevel at the time, right, this is back in 2021, is that we start to offer lead nurturing on top of lead generation, right? And that's what GoHighLevel is actually very good at, is by setting up a whole email and SMS sequence and nurture people after they opted in from Facebook marketing campaign. And eventually when they're ready to make a decision in terms of buying or selling their property, they will ring our agent because they have our agent as the top of mind, right? So again, like this have been a game changer for our client result. And as you can see here, we managed to actually get lots of client testimonial, lots of case study, and therefore scale our real estate agency to 40K months, not too long after that. And this is saying by me personally sticking into one niche, right? It's sticking with real estate and not doing any other thing else, right? Which led me to the next point, right? When you were starting out, should you go broad or narrow? So first of all, this is a post made by one of my friends in the group. Is saying like, this week I closed 5 out of 8 demo call, which is over 50%, right? More than half of the closing rate. Here what I did. Main thing that make the difference is that I niche the niche, right? And I was able to speak the language of my prospects a lot better than other, right? So that's me become an expert on your niche. I now only work with Chiro who sell high ticket service. Number one, they have more money, but they also more sophisticated, which help them understand my system so much better. And my agency also doesn't focus on lead or show appointment, but more focus on how many patients get convert. And as soon as they saw that I actually gave a shit, they knew I was the man for the job. We're gonna be the best agency for Chiro, mark my word, right? And you can see here, there's a lot of people engaged in this post. So what we learned from this is that I 100% agree on this post is that by focusing on one niche, you're able to speak their language, therefore become an expert, therefore gain more trust in your sales call, therefore close more sales, therefore make more money for your business, right? So when you're just starting out, it's very important to niche down your service delivery, not the market yet, okay? So first of all, never offer packages, right? Never offer multiple price tier, right? I really hate the silver, the bronze, the platinum, the gold price tier. Really hate that, right? And sure, there's people that doing it like HighLevel, like Zoho, but like these guys are not beginner guys. And this is applicable to beginner if you're just starting out without any previous experience, right? Which is why you're watching this video right now. You can't compare yourself to top SaaS company like HighLevel and ClickFunnels, right? Just don't compare the two and two. And multiple service, like don't offer SEO, Google ad, TikTok ad, LinkedIn ad, and then Facebook ad, right? Just offer one or two key feature and key services that gonna help your client get a result, right? In this guy case, is getting more patient in the door for his client, right? Instead, you want to spend 1 or 2 months exploring different markets. So this is exactly what I did. So I was exploring solar, mortgage broker, and real estate agent at the time after I pivot from my jewelry niche. And then you want to select one to focus on. And that's going to become your primary and main niche. Why? Because it's easier to become an expert in one area. Instead of trying to play multiple sports and being average at all, you can become a world champion with just one sport, meaning become an expert in one marketplace, one area, and one niche, right? And it's also easier to get client result, right? Because everything would be systemized, right? One niche, one result, one delivery system. And it's also become easier when it comes to client acquisition. Like my friends say here, when you speak with multiple real estate agents, you start to understand their language, their pain point, and their desired outcome. They all want the same thing. And you start to speak with their terminology, right? And when they listen, they actually know that you are the real deal, and it just become a lot easier to close deal once you speak their language, okay? So when it comes to picking market, right, this is going to be your actionable step. Like you can take this and actually go into Google and ChatGPT and finalize your decision making criteria, right? So first of all, you want to pick a growing market, right? So for me, an example would be the jewelry market, right? So I know it's not growing, so I need to kill it. I need to pivot, right? And you want to pick a market that grows, doesn't shrink. So pretty much, you know, the retire market due to aging population are growing right now, right? If you're in Japan or South Korea, you know that if you have a technology that would serve the elderly market in 20-year time, when the middle-aged people start to retire and become the elderly population, your products or your services is gonna explode because this market gonna be like, you know, growing, right? Expands in size. Shrinking market is like jewelry, right? Jewelry market, because of the trends, like people are not buying gold and diamond as the traditional ring anymore. The younger generation pivot into Zara and Pandora. Newspaper media is also one of them, so like just stay away from those, okay? You can actually do a Google or ChatGPT search for this if the market that you try to aim for is actually a growing market or not, right? So just saying market size for ... And then you can see the actual trends when it comes to Google. You can visit Google Trends for this, right? And you want to look for buying power as well, okay? So buying power meaning that this market actually make money themselves so that they have buying power for your services. For example, real estate agents and lawyer, they definitely make a lot of money in their profession, so they can pay you for their services if you can help them, and then you can prove that you can help them, right? But, market that doesn't have any buying power, such as student and unemployed individuals, right? So again, stay away from them, right? Don't make any services that too related to this marketplace, right? You can ask Google search for this average income for ... right? And you get, income for real estate agents or, student, right? In this city, New York, Ohio, right? Or Sydney. And then last criteria would be reachability, right? Is this market easy to reach? Real estate agents, for example, are very easy to reach because they're everywhere, right? They're also easy to cold call because it's literally their job to pick up the phone, and they also everywhere. It's very easy to find a real estate agent phone number, right? One Google search away. Now, someone who is hard to reach is a doctor, right? Doctor is very hard to reach. They're very busy, and they usually have a gatekeeper. So they would have a front desk receptionist that would block you if you try to call or markets or being a salesman to them. So it's really hard to speak with a doctor. However, if you do land an appointment with a doctor, it's very easy to close because they don't go into like this marketing session or marketing meeting all the time. So it's very easy to close a doctor. Okay. So lastly, you need to understand the cost of indecision, right? So first of all, guys, you need to understand that there is no easy or perfect niche, right? Every niche have its pros and cons, and as long as it meets some of the criteria above, it's a good niche, right? So I'm not saying doctor is a bad niche, right? Doctor have all of this. Like there's a growing doctor based on where you're at, and there's definitely a buying power when it comes to doctor. They make a lot of money, okay? So as long as it fit some of this criteria, maybe 2 out of 3, it's a good niche and you can go after it, right? And you have to understand, guys, that picking a wrong niche, right? The reason why I put quote unquote here, because there's no wrong or right niche. Even with jewelry, let's say, technically, if we were to put it into this term, it's a wrong move, but I still learned so much from getting results for my jewelry clients. So technically, it's not a wrong niche. You still learn something from it. When you're just starting out, picking, the wrong niche will have minimal consequences, because like you literally have nothing to lose. Like, what do you have to lose? You're just some guy starting their first business. Worst case scenario, you lose 2 to 3 months, which then you can also learn from it as your experience to start your next agency or your next niche, right, to pursue, right? So you would have minimal consequences because you can quickly switch and change later on. Like you're not stuck, you're not signing any contract to marry on to a particular niche. So just make a decision. I really hate it when someone come into the program and they spend 3 months and they still haven't picked a niche. Like, just make up your mind, dude. Just make up your mind. It's not funny how some people can take so long deciding on a niche, right? We recommend that you want to stick with a niche for like 60 to 90 days to know whether this is a good niche for you or it's not a good niche for you, right? So again, like if you're still indecisive, here are some tools to help, right? Obviously, the generic advice that I mentioned in the beginning does help, right? So you want to start with you, what you're good at, what you have experience with, and what you're passionate about, right? But the key tip I want to help you is that if you don't know, just check your YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook algorithm, right? Or recommendation, right? These algorithms train to know you, right? So pretty much just go to the suggestion tab on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok and see like what are the common trends of all this feed they try to serve you, right? Which is like majority of it is just cooking and soccer. Then you probably like have some sort of interest around that field, right? And the next thing, guys, is to start with the people around you, right? So if you don't want to follow your interest, you can follow the people around you, especially people who have influence around you, especially when it comes to your close friend, your family, your parent. So for me, my family are jewelers, so hence why my first niche was a jeweler, because I know a lot about jewelry. So start with the people around you, close people like your teacher, your mentor, your friends, your network. And then you want to start with the people that you paid, right? So you can leverage their industry experience in a niche if you have a paid mentor or mastermind. So people that come to our lead, right? Again, if you don't know what an elite is, it's pretty much an inner circle. Just click on this link at the bottom here, and we help them with this whole niche selection as well. We take people from starting out to getting to 10K monthly recurring with their software business, right? So with our lead, that's exactly what we do. And what we tell our students in our paid inner circle, we just say, if you indecisive, I'll give you 3 days to pick a niche. If you still can't pick a niche, right, and you still can't decide, we're gonna force you into real estate, because all of our content, all of our material is unique to real estate. So just pick real estate. Like, even if you're watching this right now, guys, and you can't decide, 3 days from now, and if you still can't decide, for God's sake, just pick real estate. Okay, right? Just pick real estate as your first one, and then pivot after if it doesn't work out. Okay, because right, the good thing about it is that majority of the course content and our frameworks and our scripts and our snapshot is related to real estate, right? Now, the next step is to generate a bunch of idea and lists that you can work backward from. Right, so this Google Sheet have AI prompts. I have different prompts here. You can select one or all of them. As you can see here, when I enter that into ChatGPT, it gives me all of this highly profitable niche. It's pretty much ask ChatGPT to give us a list that is profitable and easy to sell to, right? Yeah, AI are really good with this sort of stuff. Like, you know, there's like 10 different options here, and you can just ask it to give you 20 different options if you want to, right? All you have to do is just select a niche, guy, right, and make a decision and then stick with it, right? And feel free to use this prompt, right? There's actually 3 prompts right here. Okay, the next step is to become an expert on the niche, right? Once you lock it in the next 60 days and 90 days, make a commitment not to switch, not to change, unless like you speak with me and I advise you to change, right? Then that's like an exception, right? So you need to understand, guys, that when I first start real estate is that I don't know anything about housing or property, right? And it takes time, practice, and persistence to become knowledgeable, and if I dare to call, expert on it, right? I would say I know quite a lot about property in general, buying, selling, market, up and down, because I spoke with literally 3 or 4 or even 500 real estate agents by now, right? I have a fair idea on real estate market, right? And because of that, I can speak their language and their terminology, right? When I speak to real estate agents, like, they know that I have experience in real estate, right? So what that means is that instead of asking what's your monthly revenue, I just ask what's your current GCI, which stands for gross commission income last month, right? So that kind of small tweak when it comes to terminology and word does give a lot of trust to real estate agents, and, you know, therefore making it easier to transact with them and make more money for your business. So hopefully this lesson helped when it comes to helping you decide on a niche or marketplace, and hopefully it's helped from guiding you through my personal experience on what I went through when I was just starting out and my thought process and everything. And I am what I am now from just sticking to one niche. So hopefully you guys take the lesson from that. And if you guys have any other question, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one.